Welcome to the Revelation of Hope podcast with your host, Alvin Bonds II. Join us each week as Alvin explores the relationship between leadership and families by interviewing leaders in different fields all over the world. Alvin believes that the success of tomorrow's leaders begins with the success of today's families.
Well, Laurie, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. Would you take a moment and tell us about you?
Sure. Thanks, Alvin. I'm Laurie Sudbrink, and I am the author of Leading with Grit, which is a business workplace kind of a book, but it's unique in that it also provides individuals with a nice roadmap to lead their own lives with grit, grit being generosity, respect, integrity, and truth. I also have owned my own business in the training and development field, concentrating mostly in leadership and communication skills for the last 20 years. Probably you can Google me and learn a lot more.
Yes, I love it. And tell us about this journey in creating this book. I imagine, with all your years of experience with, leadership, some of this comes naturally, but tell us about that journey.
Oh, sure. It was quite a journey. I think it was probably one of the hardest things, if not the hardest thing I've ever accomplished. I started the book about 10 years before I finished the book, and I started it really strong and had a lot of motivation and a direction to go. And then, as it happens to all of us, life got in the way. We had a few family tragedies and things that just made me put it to the side for a while, which I think everything happens for a reason, because the book turned out a lot different than it would have 10 years prior. And, it was one of those things that I just put it out there that I wanted to share this formula with a lot more people than I could touch, coming into the workplace. And I wasn't even sure that I would get a publisher to pick me up, but as luck, and I guess the definition of luck is when preparedness meets opportunity. So the opportunity showed up, and I was prepared when I met the owner of Wiley Publishing back in about 2012 at a conference. And we just got talking about a book he was working on with his daughter. And I said how cool it would be to write a book with my daughter. And about a half hour later, we were talking about my book idea. And he put me in touch with one of the senior editors. And I was so excited and so thrilled that Wiley, one of the biggest publishers, was going to, take my book that, I'll be honest, I didn't negotiate. I said yes to everything. I was in way over my head. They asked me to have the book done in about 5 months. It was crazy. It was quite the experience, but I guess besides childbirth, I have one daughter. It was probably the most rewarding experience as well.
Yes. Tell us about how you, became interested in leadership, or that process of you gaining experience and becoming an authority on leadership.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Some of it probably goes way, way back. I was a middle child of 14.
Whoa.
And that might explain a little bit of my desire to have people work more functionally together, being that middle child. Yeah. But, I wasn't one of those kids that always knew what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I kind of envied some of my siblings that did. And I ended up going to college and working full time for a local manufacturing company. And while I did that, I got the opportunity to explore a lot of different jobs and positions. And what I knew that I loved was inspiring people to take ownership of their own experiences and their lives, and not to feel like a victim. And they could really, just by switching their own thoughts and beliefs, make a huge impact on not only their own experience but other people's experiences too. And the opportunity to start training and development just came throughout that position, and it started with products for the sales team. And then I had the pleasure of working with some of the executive team on some soft skills, and that was my sweet spot. I just loved it, and so the company I worked for at the time sent me to a lot of certifications. Meanwhile, I was still working on getting my interpersonal communications degree, and about 8 years later, I got my degree. Had a lot of certifications, in the company let me head up and start a training department there. So that's really how I got interested in it. I've always loved, every time I heard, I think the first guy that I fell in love with this leadership stuff was Ken Blanchard back in the 80s. I just love him and have since gotten to be good friends with him. So that's been kind of a cool life dream that I never thought back then I would get the luxury of meeting him, let alone being friends with him and his wife. So yeah, I guess that's it wasn't a planned path, but I fell into it.
I love that. That's so amazing. And I'm a counselor and I have the opportunity to work with different people. And one of the things I have discovered is people have an idea of what they would like to do or want to do with their lives, but they struggle in executing that. Where would you have someone to start, or where's a good place to start when someone, wants to do something amazing but doesn't know where to begin?
Ah, such a great question, and so many of us get stuck there. At least I think everyone can relate to it at some time in their life. And years ago, I remember it was a long time ago. I woke up one night and I was thinking, what is the formula to get people to be able to make the change they want in their lives? And I actually came up with the 5 steps of change to help people do this. And the 5 steps, real quickly, are: the first step is awareness, and it means awareness, self-awareness without judgment, just completely accepting where we are. And then being able to look at ourselves objectively and go, do I want to make a change? And that second step is desire. What's in it for me? Why would I want to do this? And that desire needs to be my desire, not someone else's desire to change me. I've got to find intrinsic motivation why I want to make that change. And the third step is then, how do I do it? And the how is going to fit differently for each person. Just take diets, for example. Everybody interacts and relates differently to food, to exercise, to how much sleep they need, to all of those types of things. And so there's not a one size fit all for most things in life. We have to find the how that's going to work for us. And that's the third step I call knowledge. The fourth step is the one that I think most people kind of hedge. It's action. It's like, okay, I get the knowledge, I want to do this, and then it's really, making it happen, doing it. And sometimes it's just a matter of breaking it down into manageable steps. Sometimes it's just good old-fashioned discipline. Recently, I heard Mel Robbins, I think it was a TED Talk, or, if you just Google her, she has the 5-second rule, and it is awesome because she has you count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 if you're procrastinating. And it fits so perfectly at this stage if you're stuck at the action stage. So check her out. The 5th step is perseverance. It's, okay, I know I'm going to fall off once in a while. I know I'm going to fall flat on my face. I've got to dust myself off, get back on the horse. I got to keep going. I've got to find a way to make sure that I put things in place ahead of time to help myself stay on track. So as soon as I want to do something, make a change in my life, I need to start thinking about a different lifestyle to structure that. And there's all different ways you can do that. One of my favorites is just simply putting reminders in your calendar. Put reminders around your house for yourself to help you stay on track.
I love that. And with technology to being the way it is now, we can do reminders at any place. We can use, Alexa, or, hey Google, lots of different things. I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
You are the founder and owner of Unlimited Coaching Solutions. Can you tell us about that?
Sure, sure. I started that company back in 1999, and that was before the big coaching craze. It was really, the name came about because I wanted to help people with, I do training and development in the classroom primarily. I do some executive coaching, but I primarily do this on leadership and team building in the classroom. But I wanted to have more of a coach approach where people were enabled to kind of take ownership and be empowered of their own development and learning, and they could do it in bite-sized pieces over time. And so that's where the name came in, Unlimited Coaching Solutions. And as we all know, coaching has become so, such a huge business that
Yes.
a lot of times people mistake my business for just a coaching business. But, we do end up doing mostly executive and middle leadership management kind of level coaching, but the primary business is leadership development. And I have a 3-day specialty course that I do that's called Lead with Grit. Sometimes we offer it open enrollment in some nice warm areas like St. Pete, Florida, and other times we will come right into your workplace, and customize it a bit for the team that you want to put through this. So, the business has been around for a while, and I used to have 6 full-time employees, and now I have associates that I work with and a nice team that supports me in all things Unlimited Coaching Solutions. So I'm pretty mobile. I'm all over the place. I live in Sarasota part of the year, and I live in upstate New York the other part of the year. So I wanted to get rid of the brick and mortar and just have that freedom of traveling around, and it's been great.
Yes. And can you walk us through what that experience is like when someone signs up? And also, can you tell us the acronym again? You mentioned it earlier, but I want to make sure
Oh,
I get
sure.
that.
Yeah, I'll start with the acronym. GRIT, it stands for generosity, respect, integrity, and truth. And, just of course, the traditional meaning of grit, and Angela Duckworth has some good work, research she's done on that word, grit, and how important it is to have tenacity, to have that passion and perseverance and not give up. I wanted to take it a step further, though, and include community into it, because
Mm.
sometimes, as we all know, somebody can be really gritty and leave other people in the dust. It's like
Yes.
I can do all that, but I can like step on people on my way, and that's not gonna serve us well in the long run. And so grit, generosity, respect, integrity, and truth is a roadmap to help us have grittiness and happiness. And we actually start with truth and work our way back to generosity.
Mm.
And truth is all about being true to ourselves, knowing and accepting who we are, what we are, what's important to us, our passions, our strengths, our limitations, what changes do we want to make, all of that good stuff. And then
Yes.
integrity is the action of our truth. It's staying aligned to who we say we are and what we say is important. And it's all the actions that we take that should be in alignment with our truth. The third one, respect. If we are, if we're aware of who we are and what's important to us, and we stay aligned to that with our integrity, we're already showing self-respect.
Yeah.
We also can start to respect other people and realize that we don't know what their truth is. We don't know for sure. We can't make assumptions that they're not, telling us the truth. They're not in integrity. And, that one goes pretty deep. Too much time for our call today. But the respect part is so important because it starts us considering other people so that we can be generous in an authentic way. So we start to give because we want to give, not because we feel like we have to give. We
Mm.
give, we have those one-on-one meetings, for example, as a leader with our team, because we really want to. We know that that is the greatest investment we can make for these people's lives, for the job, for the company's bottom line. We're coming at it from a whole different direction when we have our grit together, so to speak. So that's the acronym, yeah. And in fact, I have a new product that just hit Amazon shelves, and it is called the Get Your Grit Together Planner. It's made by Gritty Stuff. So if you're looking for it on Amazon, I'm not up on the search quite yet because I just hit the shelves literally this week. But if you search Gritty Stuff Planner, I'm going to have some phenomenal deals going on right now for the launch. So really cool planner if anybody wants it. But little shameless plug there if you don't mind, Alvin.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
And how people contact me, typically I'm word of mouth. I'm just growing my business organically through word of mouth, but I do, get people through these, podcasts and stuff like that too, and they'll contact me to say, how can I bring you into our business? What does it look like to have you come in and, train maybe 20 of our middle level managers or our C-suite executive team, or maybe we have a team that actually needs to function at a much higher level. Maybe we need to learn to be more productive with our conflict. There's, all of those kind of pain points that you can call me or email me, Laurie at unlimitedcoaching.com, Laurie, and I'm happy to just discuss with you what that looks like for you. What are the different options? No pressure. Sometimes it's a great fit. Other times it's not. I want it to be a good fit as much as anyone else because it doesn't look good on me if it's not either. So,
Yeah.
So that's, it really is it's not a one size fits all, but my signature course is the 3-day Lead with Grit for managers and executives.
And I love this idea of community. We don't live in a vacuum. We're all interconnected, and that's something that I see every day, and I think is so valuable. And I wonder if you could tell us what leadership looks like for you at home with your family. Having grown up, as middle child of 12, that's phenomenal. But
Yeah.
what does leadership look like for you in your home?
Yeah, that's such a great question and so symbolic. And to me, the most important leadership role we have, is with our family. I mean, besides ourselves, I think ourselves is probably the number one, and number two is our families. And what are we doing to lead there? And like I said, I have one daughter. I have 3 incredible grandsons, and I think of myself as someone who I'm the role model. What I do and say is so extremely important to their lives. At the same time, I'm not trying to be someone that's flawless and that, is this unattainable, ridiculous definition of perfection that we're all, never going to reach. It's not that. We're pretty perfect the way we are if we're really doing the best that we can. And if we can just be completely genuine and authentic and more transparent with the people that we love, and it starts with our family, and it's the best place to practice this, to be able to have the conversations we need to have, to be able to be, direct yet kind, caring, loving. And that's the same way, in my opinion, that we need to be in the workplace. It might look a little different.
Yes.
It might come across a little differently, but it's the same thing, because it's, to me, about connecting with them in a way that shows that you love them, you want to help them, but you're not going to enable them. You're not going to do things for them. You're going to help them stretch and learn and grow. And you're not going to do, you're not going to do it all for them. I think that's the worst thing we could do for our family members.
Yes. And one of the things that I see with the families I work is me encouraging the parents, like you said, we're not flawless. Our children need to see that we are flawed and we have problems, because our children look up to us, and if they think that we're perfect, they'll feel like they have to be perfect. And I wonder, could you tell us how you've done that? What do you tell yourself? What do you do that helps you embrace your flaws?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's probably, a lot of work over the years that led me to be able to be okay with being vulnerable. Just be okay with it. That know that when you do put yourself out there and you share that raw truth with people, they respect you even more. They connect with you even more, and it's one of those almost catch-22s. I don't know if that's the right way to describe it, but it's like you're not doing it to get people to connect to you but you do it and then people connect to you. You know what I mean? And just being completely real. And, that doesn't mean that we don't have filters. It doesn't mean that we don't decide that, well, maybe this isn't something that I'm going to share, some crazy wild thing that I did when I was a teenager. I might want to wait till my daughter's old enough to really understand what that story means before I share something like that. So we have to use some logic, some common sense, some filters, of course. And we want to, I think there is a bit of strategicness. We're thinking about what is it that we're trying to teach our children, teach the people that work for us. And we think of those lessons and we share them through real stories of vulnerability that we've actually experienced ourselves.
I love it. And I love that what you do in your work, you've done that in raising your daughter, and that's phenomenal. And I wonder, what would you say to someone who may not have had the leadership or guidance, that you gave your daughter? Someone, that may have been raised by a family member or even in the foster care system, but they still have this burning desire to, effect change or create something. What would you say to them to encourage them that despite, what they may not have gotten, they still have potential?
I think this is my favorite question. Thank you. It's such a beautiful question. And I know a lot of people in those situations, personal friends, you name it. And what I say is that we have an opportunity today, right now, to change our own thoughts and beliefs about ourselves, about our own experiences, to make a choice, to step into the person we want to be today. And nothing can hold us back from that but us. And so everything that has gotten you to where you are today was part of your path and is beautiful. And it's something that you can use to help yourself and help others to lean into where they are. So I don't think any of those past experiences are bad. It's where we maybe needed to be on our life path to get to where we are. But don't let that define you. Don't ever let your past define you, because even if you made those choices, maybe you grew up in a family and you're sitting here beating yourself up going, I had the best leaders, and I didn't make the right choices. It's never too late to go, okay, just decide, what do I want? How do I want to feel? What do I want to be? And you set out to, I say, first visualize it and then show up and make things happen every day to make it happen.
Yes. And would you mind sharing with us, I guess, a setback that you've encountered, whether, personally, professionally, and what you did to overcome that?
Oh, yeah. Wow. I have lots of them. Let me see. The one that popped in my head and then a little emotion behind it when you said it actually has to do with the book that I am writing, or wrote. I was actually taking myself back there, right there.
Yeah.
And as I was, writing this book, I had, a couple of family tragedies that I had mentioned and personal setback. I took those tragedies very, very personally. I had a couple of brothers who committed suicide. Very, very, very hard thing to deal with.
Yeah.
And you don't know until you go through it how you're going to internalize that.
Yes.
And it took me a few years to really be able to not take that so personally and not kind of, to get out of that funk that I had myself in over that. And that was something that it was such a hard setback for me. And what I did with it isn't what I would have wanted to do, for the 3 years that, it wasn't that I even went that crazy and went off the deep end or anything, but just where I was in my own mind and probably a bit depressed and, all of these things that happened, it really was a hard place to be.
Yeah.
And when I could feel myself pulling myself back out of it. And it was slow and it was painful. And it was almost like, how dare you be happy and go on when they can't, and
Right.
it was really, really tough. And I still get emotional and it's a tough thing, but we all experience different setbacks and things that are going to happen in our life. And I think we have to allow ourselves the permission to go through it the way we need to go through it, and try not to judge it so much, because I think even though I knew not to do it intellectually, I was still doing it. I was still judging myself. So yeah, that was a tough one.
And I appreciate you sharing that. I just appreciate overall your vulnerability and just sharing that experience with us. And many of us, I know for men especially, it's difficult for us to embrace vulnerability. And that's something that, in my practice, I encourage, everyone to do. But thank you so much for sharing that.
Oh, you're so welcome. And it's not something I share a lot. You must have touched something in me, Alvin, to share that. And I agree with you. I hope men can, even open up even more and share their vulnerabilities. They can still be strong, tough men. I think it makes them even tougher and more handsome and, more
Yes.
manly when they do this. So
Yes,
if that's any encouragement.
definitely. Thank you. Laurie, as we bring the interview to a close, is there anything you'd like to share with our listeners, about leadership, about your journey, just something encouraging them to keep moving forward?
Yeah, sure. I say just be yourself and be in the moment, and don't be afraid to be yourself. Be your authentic self. Don't try to be someone else when you're stepping into leadership. And leadership I use loosely. I mean informal and formal leadership, because we're all making a difference. It's just, what difference do we want to make? And I think that people that are genuine and authentic, and you're coming from a place of generosity instead of scarcity, abundance, people are gonna accept you, and you're gonna be that leader that you want to be. It's not about being like someone else or trying to please other people either. That I think just being authentic, staying true to ourselves, that that truth part of grit, that's the cornerstone right there. It's just knowing and accepting ourselves. And one last thing I would say is enjoy it, have fun, lighten up about it, laugh at yourself. It's okay. We're on this earth to trip up and mess up and learn from it and have fun and just do our best.
Yes, I love that. And you also have a podcast, if I'm understanding correctly.
I do. It's I have some recordings up there. I have to say that I'm not as diligent as posting them every week. And I don't even remember the podcast address right now as we're talking. But leadingwithgrit.com has my weekly blog.
Yes.
And I do free webinars once a month. No pressure. We always have an offer at the end, but it's absolutely under no pressure. And I'll talk for about 20, 25 minutes, and you can ask me questions live. It is a live webinar. So you can go to leadingwithgrit.com if anyone's interested in signing up for that.
Awesome. Wonderful.
Oh, it was such a pleasure, Alvin. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time. I love, there's such a passion in just your voice and how you talk, and I love it. It's infectious. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you, Alvin.
Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Please be sure to subscribe, as well as providing a rating and review. Every week, I will interview a different leader and invite them to share with us their views and perspective on the relationship between leadership and family. Be sure to visit my website. It's www.alvinbonds2nd.com. That's ALVINBONDSII.com. Have a great day.